One question kept popping into my head during my pre-sequel playthrough. Is this game actively going out of its way to ruin my experience? Everything happening made me feel like this game just didn't want me to have any fun. And all of the issues this game has boil down to one core problem. And I didn't even realize that problem until I finished the game. Welcome to completion number 8 of the Potato Backlog Project. Stick around to the end of the video for the Tater Raider and let's talk about the pre-sequel. So what's the core problem with the pre-sequel? What holds it back from being a great gaming experience? The base movement of the game is reimagined from the first two Borderlands games. You start out on one of the moons of Pandora, so there's less gravity. This allows for longer jumps with massive floaty hang time. You also get an airspeed boost, kind of like a double jump, and there's a ground slam as well that brings you out of the air really fast. It also doubles as an attack against grounded enemies. And these options are all tied into the new oxygen resource. The new movement mechanics are not the main problem of the game. They actually lead to some interesting new ways to battle and fight in the game. I like that they attempted to open up the fighting a little bit more than just find cover, shoot gun, activate super, repeat, so on. I really like that they weren't afraid to try something new. The problem is when they designed and created the world for this game, the locations, the enemies that populate it, the bosses and missions, they didn't build or design any of it with the new movement mechanics in mind. The entire world and design of the game feels like it was based upon the movement and game design of the first two Borderlands. It feels like it was 80 to 85% complete, and then they decided, oh hey, let's do this crazy new movement thing. The world design and movement mechanics constantly feel like they're at odds with each other, and you're just stuck in the middle trying to slog it out to find out what happens in the story next. If you're going to change something as big as the base movement of an already established gaming franchise, you need to carefully design and craft that environment and gameplay experience from the ground up, focusing directly on those changes, and play test it properly as you go to make sure it's a fun experience for the player. A great example is the oxygen resource itself. It feels like a late game add-on, a late development. There's no real reason to have it in the game other than to slow down your playthrough. The beginning of the game is already annoying, having to run back and forth doing fetch quests on a pretty empty large map, but they went ahead and added the need to deviate to these oxygen stations, otherwise you die. The annoyance of this is accentuated by the fact that the speed boost they give you uses more oxygen. This is a horrible way to introduce new movement. It ends up being boring, frustrating, and slow. And when your game starts off that way, not a lot of people are going to stick around and keep playing it. You do eventually unlock vehicles which negate the need to do this, but the poorly designed maps and horrible fast travel system pretty much have you not caring by then. The O2 resource also has very little consequence on the fighting itself. When you kill an enemy, they all freely drop O2 containers to replenish your resource, leaving you free to boost around the air, slam down on enemies without really having to worry about it at all, which is good. You shouldn't have to worry about that stuff when you're just trying to fight some enemies, but it leaves you wondering why they would put it in the game at all. Fighting enemies was fun from time to time when the game wasn't getting in the way. There was never any real flow to the encounters. I was constantly getting caught or clipped by something on the environment which would slow me down or stop me. I would look down and there was nothing there. It just felt like unpolished environments and locations that didn't have enough playtesting. Or there would just be entire areas and locations that just weren't available. Even though you could jump up and reach them, the game just cut you off from them. It felt incredibly frustrating and limiting to me. This just led me to blindly jumping around a lot while trying to fight at the same time, and it didn't feel fun. It felt messy and counterproductive. There was the odd, rare occasion where I did find myself having fun though. The environment I was in worked, the mixture of enemies in it was just right, and I really caught a rare glimpse of what the experience could have been, but it was always fleeting and the next frustration was just around the corner, and I probably had to stop for O2 on the way so I didn't die. The boss battles here were a big missed opportunity for me as well. Just looking at one of the final confrontations in Zarpedon, it's just a giant open area with a bunch of enemy spawns with really good aim and an environment that can drain your shields really fast. In a game where they give you a really floaty jump and a ground pound, you just get tore up here, especially solo. I would have loved to have seen some sort of environmental tie-in here, maybe with the gravity mechanic, maybe with the ground slam mechanic. Maybe you gotta slam some switches or something that activates different things that move and help you in the battle. Something a little more interesting. And let's not forget this hallway where you have to wait for the electricity before you can move on after respawning, which just hammered home the fact for me that they were actively going out of their way to make sure I was not having fun. A few people I talked to that played this game before named the movement mechanics as the reason they didn't like the game. I like the idea of the new mechanics. If the game had been designed properly with them in mind from the start, this could have been really, really enjoyable to play through. On the plus side of things, Borderlands the Pre-Sequel tells a really great story filled with really great characters. This is the story of how HandsomeJack goes from Hyperion programmer all the way into the villain that we see in Borderlands 2. The Vault Hunter classes that you get to choose from are all great here, and the characters themselves are interesting and have nice little arcs throughout the story as well. I really enjoyed the character-specific dialogue with certain NPCs. This seems small but adds so much depth to the game, and this would have been a really welcome addition into Borderlands 3, where everything kind of falls flat in the writing and character department. And for some people, this is enough of a reason to do a second playthrough just to see what the different lines of dialogue are, which I think is great. If the actual gameplay had been as well thought out as the story, this could have been a classic. 2 frustrated happy potato faces out of 5. I loved the story, loved the characters. I loved the idea of the new movement mechanics and what they were trying to go for. I wanted to love playing this game, but it just wouldn't let me. How was your experience with this game? Did you finish it? Do you only like it now because you don't like Borderlands 3? I appreciate all the love the Borderlands 3 video got. Thank you. My hope for this channel is it's like comfort food for viewers while I go through my backlog project. Easy to watch videos that generate a little bit of conversation on our shared love of video games. The Potato Backlog project rolls on. Be kind to yourselves and others that deserve it. We're on to the next one. Thanks for watching. If you're gonna change something as big as the base movement of an established video maker. Cut it.